Hi everyone, what's up? Welcome to episode 5 on your beginner fighting game 101 series. And today we're going to talk about focused learning and deliberate practice. What is focused learning and deliberate practice? Well, practicing with a focused goal in mind. I've read about this in a few of the books in the past, one being Mastery by George Leonard, and another one called Peak: Secrets from the New Science of Expertise by Anders Ericsson and Robert Poole. And they go into depth about deliberate learning and practice and how to get the most performance out of anything that you want to learn and get better at. So you don't want to just mindlessly hop into rank mode with no real goals in mind and start playing and expect to have a lot of improvements. So how do you improve quickly? To improve quickly, you want to set a specific set of goals that you want to use deliberate practice for. Now, before I get into talking about the different steps that I have suggested you can do, I want to first talk about System 1 versus System 2 thinking. What is System 1 versus System 2 thinking? Well, Core A Gaming has a nice video describing what that is, and also I'll link to a description below on System 1 and System 2 thinking. Basically, System 1 thinking is automatic and quick, and pretty much with little effort, you want to make quick decisions. And System 2 thinking is more slow and deliberate, and use that to solve more complicated tasks that requires more time and mental energy. When something is new to you, your brain typically will utilize System 2 thinking because it is new and you need to spend a lot of mental energy to understand what it is. Only after a period of time exposure to the new environment, eventually your brain will be used to it. You've developed the motor neuron connections in your brain in order to quickly make decisions. Then it becomes more second nature to you and becomes System 1 thinking. For example, if you want to learn how to drive a car, in the beginning, there's a lot of things going on. For example, you need to use the brakes, the accelerator, you need to control the steering wheel, you need to pay attention to the mirrors on the sides, and the rear view mirror, plus all the pedestrians and cars and everything, the lights and the rules of the road. There's a lot of things to pay attention to and a lot of things new to you coming at your brain. So it requires a lot of thinking, a lot of concentration in order just to drive a car. But eventually, as all of us are usually driving every day, that becomes System 1 thinking. We're not really thinking actively about a lot of these things anymore, and we can just kind of go on autopilot and just drive and commute to work every day until a new situation might arrive. For example, if you're in a new environment, you're not used to the roads, or if an accident happens, something you need to make a decision on, then your brain kicks into System 2 thinking, where you need to do a little more thinking about what you're actually doing. Now, why do I talk about that? Well, the main thing is because I want you, or your goal should be, to get into the System 2 from System 2's level of thinking, where you're actively concentrating and thinking about a lot of things going on in the game, into System 1, where you're more reacting on autopilot because you're aware of the situation. And the more you can do that, the more quickly you can react, and the more quickly you can be able to, without putting too much cognitive load on what is going on in your brain, on the things you should be automatically making decisions on, to use your brain for other things like adapting to what your opponent is doing. Number 1, what you want to do when you're learning is don't multitask. Don't think, well, everybody wants to think that they're great at multitasking, but in reality, they're probably very bad at it, and it's actually making you worse at what you're doing, because it's better to focus on doing one task, and you'll always be doing that better than trying to do multiple tasks and ending up doing multiple tasks worse. When you're practicing, you want to put away your cell phones, distractions. Don't be checking your social media. What you want to do is block off a specific set of time to deliberately practice something. Do you set a goal ahead of time in order to achieve it? Number 2, deliberately practicing single situations. So no multitasking. You want to identify a single situation that you want to work on, you want to get better at. You want to make sure that you're not thinking about that situation when it arises from System 2 level of thinking and move into System 1 level of thinking, where you're automatically reacting to the situation or being able to execute whatever you need to do in the moment as quickly as you can. How do you do that? Well, you can go back to watch the previous episode where I talk about how to identify your weaknesses in your games. So if you are able to identify at least one weakness in your game, you can go back and go into the lab and then try to lab out those situations. Whether it is to accomplish a combo that you want to do, or reacting to, say, a jumping with a dragon punch, something as simple as that, or somebody else maybe doing some sort of a drive rush in Street Fighter 6 and you want to be able to check it or react to it, be able to jump away without having to spend too much mental energy to think about, oh, what do I do when so and so happens? I'm already ready for it. I want to give you an example of when I was learning CVS2. Now, there is a technique called tactical recovery, or slow rise. You get up slower if you just hold down the buttons when you're getting up. You actually get up slower. There's no real disadvantage to doing this technique, and it can mess up your opponent's wake up Oki. So it'll always help you, and you want to only stop doing it when you know the opponent's expecting it to, but otherwise you kind of just, it's safe to always do it. But when I was first starting to play the game, I wasn't used to this mechanic in the game, and I would always forget to do it. And afterwards I would remind myself, oh crap, I didn't do it. And it took me a very long time to be able to have the muscle memory to, without thinking too much about it, to actually apply it. And I thought even the simple technique is just holding down the buttons when you get up to activate this. I was unable to do it for the longest time. I was getting kind of frustrated and thinking, why is my brain so slow to adapt to this? But that's just the nature of things. It takes time to learn things, and even as simple as holding down some buttons when you're getting up, when you're not used to it, your brain still needs to use that cognitive energy in order to apply it until it becomes second nature. So now when I'm playing, I've been doing it enough, I can actually, without thinking too much, oh, I want to do slow get up, well, versus when I don't want to do it. And other thing I notice is with newer players is that when in a groove where you do not have tactical recovery, you have the mechanic called safe fall, which also is quick rise, where you get up quicker and you get up immediately. But the disadvantage of this technique is that you can be punished on the recovery of your quick rise, and they would mindlessly just mash the buttons when they fall and just to get up quicker, without knowing that they're actually putting themselves at risk of getting more damage. And experienced players will be ready for it, will punish them for it, essentially netting free damage for the opponent. And I noticed that it takes a long time for players, even when they're getting punished for their quick rises, that they keep doing it just because their brain is so used to one thing, and they need to actually spend their brain power to actively not mash the buttons and not doing the quick rise. And it takes a while for these players to learn, okay, what is a good safe situation where I can do this versus when it's risky to start quick rising. That's just another thing that people can actively work on in order to improve their game. So finally, number 3, you want to actually take breaks. So taking breaks will help your brain make the mental connections and build the neurons for your brain so that it's quicker to bridge those connections and you're firing quicker. This is physiologically, those neurons, the more they fire, the quicker you can make those decisions. I think that's how it goes from system 2 thinking, where you're requiring a lot of mental energy, versus system 1 thinking, where that connection's already there. Think about it, if you already built highways, then your neurons can fire the electrons quicker there, and you can make the decisions quicker. But in order for that to happen, you need to give your brain time to do that. Like physiologically, they need to develop, and I guess from the smooth brain into the smart brain. And give yourself plenty of rest and give yourself time. Notice that it will take time for you to eventually absorb the information and have it be your own. Just like I explained with the tactical recovery situation, I thought I would learn it because, well, I know it can be done. Why can't I just do it quickly? It actually takes time for you to incorporate that as part of your game. And that happens with everything. On a final note, all these things can be applied to more than just fighting games. You can actually apply them to anything you want to learn. You want to learn how to play an instrument. You want to learn how to draw. You want to learn how to get better at your jobs. You can do all these things in order to get yourself better. So these are just kind of tips, but especially for fighting games, utilize these tips that I've given you And for the next episode, I will be talking about actually tips on how to execute better on your arcade sticks. Since I use an arcade stick, I'll mostly just go over arcade sticks because I think they're the most fun to use. Plus, the games that I play are typically designed for the arcade sticks back in the 90s, early 2000s. That is the controller that the games are designed for, and I think they're just plain fun to use. They're just more fun to me than using a controller or a hitbox. I've tried other controllers, they're not as fun. So I'll give you guys some tips on how to execute better and what I've learned over the years and how to make my execution better. I wasn't always good. I was actually pretty bad when I first picked it up. If you enjoyed this episode, guys, give it a like and a thumbs up. Leave me some comments below. I like hearing from you guys, and I hope that you can share this video if you think this is helpful to any of your friends who are trying to get into the genre of learning fighting games. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching.